With Greenlight Radio and the Colorado Community Radio Network, and I am on the phone with David, aka the Polish Ambassador. Say hello.
Hello, hello.
So, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. I greatly appreciate that.
You bet. It's a pleasure to get to chat with you and to get to talk with the Colorado fans who have been so instrumental in the success and the music and all sorts of things. Polish Ambassador and Jumpsuit Records.
Yeah, you recently just had a show at Red Rocks, correct?
Yeah, this past summer.
That's right. Yeah, I actually did go to that show. It was a very beautiful show, by the way.
Thank you.
So, I kind of want to touch on your base. You know, a lot of our listeners actually know who you are and the music that you create. So I want to kind of go into a little bit more deeper essence than just the basic knowledge. A lot of what you do that I get, you know, I think everyone gets energetically as Jumpsuit is really creating a sort of sense of community, a sort of sense of a safer community, a more knowledgeable community. And you see that in a lot of the work that you do with the action work that you do. So I think one of the questions that comes up a lot for our fans is what is your philosophy on community organizing? You know, we know you are very heavy into permaculture, so we're kind of curious, you know, if you have a general philosophy that backs up your motivation, backs up your inspiration.
Oh man, well that's a cool question, and it would be a really long response. Just if I delved into all the different things that I've sort of been a part of throughout my life, but I guess, you know, to keep it somewhat short, I feel like there was a certain turning point in my musical career where I just really realized there was an opportunity to sort of steer my own ship, that being the Polish Ambassadorship and Jumpsuit Records, in a certain direction, and maybe just illuminate some ideas or some thoughts or some ways of being that maybe might have some impact on the lives and the directions of the lives of fans, people that have been following Polish Ambassador and Jumpsuit Records. So, you know, I guess on some level, I love to make music, so I'm in service to creating music that ideally sparks people in some way to move their body, to maybe move through something that is stressing them out, to have fun with their friends, to sort of create connection amongst new people, maybe that aren't their friends currently. And then beyond that music, I feel like I'm in service to being a connector, or being a community creator. And, you know, that I think that's been... There are certain things that if you sort of look at my past, you'll see. I mean, starting with music, that's kind of like the ultimate community creator. You see that everywhere at your festivals, at, you know, music venues, where music inherently is a community connector. So that for me is the foundation. And then beyond that, there was the Action Day tour, which was, you know, a lot of people just remember that tour. It was a pretty grueling tour for us, because the team we were working with, actually, they were so inspired and so stoked that they wanted to do an action day for every single show. And that's it's a pretty daunting task, especially when you have a lot of shows on a tour that are back to back to back, and trying to do an action day and then get into the venue, which might be like 4 or 5 hours away, set up your booth, and then do the same thing the next day. I mean, it was kind of crazy, but I think the craziness of it all, it was like everybody on that tour was riding on this amazing high, and I think the fans really felt that, and it inspired a lot of people in a big way. And people still talk to me about it, like, all the time, you know. And then we've continued action days, not to that sort of that frequency where it's like every show, but we do about a dozen a year now, and we try to make them pretty special. And we're incubating right now. I'm taking a little break with action days. I don't want to say a break, because there will probably be a couple right around the corner, but yeah, we're incubating some new ideas on how to refine them and make them even more potent right now. And also one of the things that I'm really trying to push is getting the artists on Jumpsuit Records to do their own version of Action Days, because I've set up a nonprofit called actiondays.us, and basically every time you or your friends or anybody downloads, streams, or plays any kind of Jumpsuit Records music, we're kicking donations to Action Days. So that's going to allow artists on the label that release with Jumpsuit Records to say, hey, Polish, I have this idea for an herbalism action day in Paonia, Colorado, and I want to do that out there, and they can actually request funds through the nonprofit to help see that action day through. So that's kind of, one of the things I'm talking about as far as like incubating and refining the process and the concept of action days to be something that goes well beyond the Polish ambassador and ideally can spread into the realm of other Jumpsuit Records artists. That's the really big element of me being a community instigator. There was a big push in my hometown of Nevada City, where we began this thing. If you research the thing called the Village Building Convergence, if you Google that, you'll see that it's this really beautiful way of creating, using the concept of placemaking to create community. And it's done a lot in Portland. You may have seen videos of painted intersections where a whole neighborhood comes out and paints an intersection and essentially creates like a little park right in the middle of a residential area. That's just one very small version of placemaking, but we embarked upon a journey of integrating a village building convergence in the place that I live, Nevada City, and it was awesome. It was such a beautiful, potent event. And there are other things. I live on a homestead now. I've actually now I'm living amongst a lot of friends and a lot of people I care about, and the community connection is happening at ground zero for myself. Every day, just getting to hang out with people on this community homestead that we're working on out here in Nevada County, California. So that's just a little taste. Maybe I rambled a little bit, but hopefully that was some good information and let the Colorado fans know how I'm weaving that into my own personal life and how I want to continue on that journey.
Nice. And that segues great into the next question, talking about getting the artists involved into the same kind of ideology and philosophy. First off, how many artists do you have on Jumpsuit?
Oh, well, I believe there's 13 or 12 right now. I need to go back and check. We're releasing a lot of artists lately.
Yeah, we noticed
that.
Cool. Where do you find the new artists?
Sorry, I'm eating some soup right now, too.
No, you're all good. Where do you guys find new artists? Like, what leads you to the artists that you find? Like, some examples we have recently that people are kind of curious about that have been seen recently are Rorschach, and I believe Tone Ranger is on your label as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rorschach is actually his name is Noam, and he's a man that lives in the town that I live in, and I've known him for a few years, and we've talked off and on about him doing a Jumpsuit release, and he sent me over some music. So a lot of it's like first degree connection of people that I've already met, and or people that are maybe friends with someone that's already in our crew, and then it's like referral based.
Sure.
I think that's a really good way to do it, because you already have 10 to 15 artists, and then why not just put the word out to them, and then most of the time like some really cool music comes in that way. We actually also I've released a few records from people that submit demos to our website. So that's definitely a way that people release. I'm releasing a record called Chrysalism by this guy named Akal Dub, and he submitted through the demo portal at jumpsuitrecords.com. So yeah, there's a few different ways that it happens.
Interesting. That's awesome. So you really do provide sort of an avenue to connect to the community to create that music as well. So that's awesome. So
Totally.
that kind of
it's
leads
super
me.
fun.
That kind of leads me actually to going away more of the ideology to the music. We've been noticing this through a lot of the sort of techno electronic scene, where live instruments are being implemented more and more. For example, Tone Ranger, I think he uses a steel guitar, right? I believe that's what he was using.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious, what's your idea about, do you think that live instrumentalism is a better part in the electronic scene? Do you think that's kind of making a comeback? Do you think it's important for it to make a comeback? How do you feel about that today's age?
Oh, well, that's a cool question. I think everything ebbs and flows, and I think that I don't know. I think that it will. It's great that acoustic music is being woven into electronic music, and I think partially that's happening because of just increases in technology and like being able to make that actually sound really good. Because there was maybe a time when it was just harder. It was a little bit harder to have acoustic music sounding really good with electronic music, but there's just been so many developments in all sorts of in the live world, in the live production or the live performance world, that has allowed that to become more and more refined and actually sound really beautiful. And I personally think there's always going to be room for just a straight up dance party with no acoustic instruments.
Sure.
And I don't really think that's going anywhere. I think things will ebb and flow as they do, and it also depends on people, right? It's like I noticed that age has a lot to do with it. You typically have a younger audience that doesn't. I mean, it's not to say they're not concerned with acoustic instruments, because that would be way too big of a generalization. But what I notice for myself is, as people age, they want to hear more acoustic elements in their music. That's been my experience with. That's been my experience with just witnessing how that whole realm is working, acoustic versus electronic. And I think that a lot of the Jumpsuit record, a lot of new people are finding out about Jumpsuit Records right now, so it's tough to say what direction or how anything is going to go. But I would say that I've been making music for quite a while, and a lot of the fans that are following Jumpsuit Records are probably, my guess is there's less 15 to 25 year olds, and there's more 25 to 40 year olds currently, and that to me suggests that people are as people are aging with the label, sort of they just want a wide variety of music. They don't want it all straight electronic, and they don't maybe want it all straight acoustic. But I think that's kind of where a label like Jumpsuit can come in, because on some level we have it all. We have some music that's just straight acoustic, like Yusufa Sidibe and Ayla, and then you have some electronic. Like I'm working on an all electronic house album. I just finished up the live band album, which is going to be released, and then after that, my next couple of releases are probably going to be just the beats and rhythms and electronic, and maybe some live elements woven in. But I think it's all just an ebb and a flow, and a lot of it just gets down to personal preference.
Sure, that makes sense. Okay, I have one final sort of topic and question for you. I know we're running low on time here, but this one kind of shifts gears. At your Red Rocks performance, everyone's very aware of your relationship with Ayla. Very beautiful ending to that performance, by the way, at Red Rocks. Very awesome. What I wanted to ask you, though, in your relationship with Ayla, in relation to feminism, I think Ayla is seen in the community as a strong sort of feminist icon in a way. Not necessarily her activism, but more her character and her personality that shines through her music. So, my question to you is, what does it mean to be a strong male presence? And what can you say to other men in your environment, in the world today, from your point of view, as it stands now, as a man in a relationship?
Wow, what a cool question. Well, I would say the number one thing that comes to mind right off the bat is I think that like the masculine has a tendency to be a little more rigid and a little bit more, I don't know, just set in its ways and maybe that's because that's just gotten passed down. And I would say that for me, like the overriding thing that I feel like makes me want to interact with another man just in any way really is a curiosity, and just a curiosity in like, wait, why am I being rigid right now? Or like, why am I doing this thing that my father always did or my grandfather always did? And I think that curiosity and that awareness of potential. I mean, really, what curiosity is kind of like it's sort of like an awareness of, hey, what? Yeah, can I change this? Can I change this thing? Can I change this pattern about me that isn't actually making me feel very good in my body? And I think, yeah, I would say curiosity is kind of like a big component to holding like a masculine energy that is I don't know, just more evolving and more maybe more compassionate and and let me think, what else? That's a very broad question. I would say, like within that curiosity, there's so many great books out there that delve into this topic, and I'm reading some right now. I mean, like, I think every man could read Iron John by Robert Bly. I think that's kind of like a quintessential book that goes into masculine archetypes and like why we're viewing the world in certain ways, like this, I don't know, there's so much in it. Just one trippy thing that I was reading is like a lot of men right now in our era, they grew up without fathers being around that often. They didn't grow up without fathers necessarily. I mean, some of them did. But what happens when you're, just being curious, well, hey, what's actually happening when I'm growing up in a family unit and the father is not around that much, or maybe he just works a whole lot? What happens is boys start viewing the world through their mother's eyes because their mother is the one that's around all of the time. So, those are the kinds of things that like books like that go into, that really create new awarenesses of that curiosity of like, hey, wait, why is it that I'm viewing this way? Why is it that I'm viewing women this way? Why is it that I'm viewing my friends or my male friends this way? And then when you start to put those pieces together, it starts to make more sense. And then once you start to create that awareness, there's potential to dismantle that for the betterment of your being, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So I don't know. That's like just dipping my toes in that
Sure.
in that question. That it's like I
Sure.
could ramble on that question for a couple hours, I think, and some of what I would say would make sense, and some of it probably wouldn't, because it's like it's all things that I'm still figuring out in
Sure.
myself, and like maybe that's the biggest part of being a man or a woman is just like, yeah, letting yourself evolve and letting yourself change, and noticing the things that feel good, and noticing the things that create resistance.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great answer. I think that gives everyone the idea energetically where you exist and lie. So, we could do another interview someday for 5 hours straight on that one, but
We totally could. That would actually be fun. I mean, like having little sub questions within that, because it's kind of it's a big question, and I feel like there's some questions within that could help illuminate that larger question in perhaps a better way.
Sure, absolutely. I think that conversation could exist for everyone in a larger way. But.
Totally.
So, okay, real quick off the wall question. Do you believe in aliens?
Totally.
Okay.
I totally believe in aliens. I've been having some trippy thoughts about that. Like I have this question. I mean, part of me doesn't even want to go there because it's like, I don't know. Sometimes some of these thoughts that I have sometimes they're not thoughts that I hold very strongly. It's
Sure.
like, again, every thought that I have, I never really try to move through life with any sort of large amount of conviction
Sure.
that would eliminate conversation.
Always
But,
hold a degree of doubt.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. But you know, there's questions in me right now around like technology, and I was actually having this trippy thought the other day. Like, wait a minute, like, you know, I was reading that book, The Botany of Desire. You know, and the concept of plants like marijuana plants or apple trees, like actually being these really intelligent beings that are getting us to do work for them
Yeah.
and propagate them all over the world. And I was kind of having this thought of like, whoa, AI, artificial intelligence, and technology in general is totally getting us to create it, and in the same exact concept, in the same exact way, right? We're just like we keep upping the standard, and maybe what we think we're doing is we're making our lives more convenient, but maybe, and I'm just saying this is a maybe there's an alien intelligence in AI that's getting us to build it, that's getting us to create it. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're
kind of
saying.
in the same way.
Yeah.
It's a little bit trippy. It's kind of out there, and I'll probably lose some fans for saying that, but it wouldn't be the first time.
Well,
But,
honestly, you won't lose any fans here with that
but yeah,
kind of talk.
those are kind of the kinds of thoughts that I feel like they, on some level, again, I don't hold that as that's true
Sure.
for me necessarily, but it's question mark, and it's like, at the end of the day, me, you, your mom, your uncle, your friends, we have no idea what's going on out here.
Nope.
Like, everything's pretty weird and pretty crazy. Just the fact that I'm talking to you on this little device and you're out there in Colorado. Like, imagine telling your great grandma that this would be happening, you know, whenever she existed 500 years ago. She would have smacked you in the face and been like, you're crazy, you know? So all I'm saying is that we don't know. And like that thing that I just spoke, that could possibly be happening. And maybe in 500 years, that'll actually be the norm.
Right.
Yeah.
Good answer.
That's it.
Good answer.
That's what I have to say about aliens, but I totally believe in alien intelligence. And
Sure.
I just don't know what shape. I think a lot of us think alien intelligence is going to visit us in this physical form, but maybe that's just not how alien intelligence works. Maybe alien intelligence is actually invisible to our senses, and we don't actually even know that it's around. Maybe it's coming through in a different way.
I can see that. That makes perfect sense to me, for sure. But, you know, to each their own, I guess. All right, so one more off-the-wall question. Is there any kind of music that might surprise your fans that you listen to?
I don't know if it would be that big of a surprise. I have like this kind of epic one-hit wonder 80s playlist that's like, some of it's like super sappy romantic, like Chicago, like, you know, when Chicago was making Peter Cetera was, you know, like Karate Kid anthem, like stuff like that. I love that. Like really cheesy Lionel Richie, Phil Collins. I love Phil Collins. He's he's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could go on and on about
Sure.
about 80s music. That's really the one that's kind of like, I love really, really cheesy and like sappy romantic 80s music. That's my fave.
Nice. All right. Well, that's all I had for questions for you. I appreciate the time today.
Cool, man. That sounds great. Yeah, thanks for reaching out and getting in touch. And it's good to stoke the fire of the Colorado community, so to speak, and get to chat with them in a cool way like this. So thanks for making the offer.